In this video, we're going to be talking about 5 main things that you should be focusing on as a vocalist from the stage. Number 1 is going to be singing confidently. To start this one out, you want to think about your mic placement. Get right up on the microphone. It's okay if it's touching your mouth. It feels like you're kissing it. That's all right. We promise we clean it. But yeah, don't be afraid to be too loud simply because you're too close to the microphone. The second kind of thing with singing confidently is to sing out. Again, if you hear yourself in your ears and you think, I'm too loud, that they probably don't want to hear me this much, or you're a background vocalist and you're like, I'm probably overpowering the lead singer. Don't worry, that's John's job. We want you to put in as much volume into the microphone as you healthily can so that we have enough to mix. And then the last thing with singing confidently is to use lots of air. You want to think of this kind of scientifically. Think of your lungs like balloons. You want to fill them up as much as you can, and you want to release as much of the air as you can when you're singing. Less of little tiny breaths in and little tiny breaths out, and more of big breaths in and lots of air out when you're singing. What this is going to do is this is going to give your tone health, but it's also going to give you a lot of vocal power. So yeah, these are really good things to think about when it comes to singing confidently, which we want you to do when you're on stage. That way you're leading people confidently. One of the things we talked about for singing confidently is mic placement. Feel like you can really get up on the microphone, that there's nothing wrong with that. So we have an example here. So you take this microphone, and there's going to be a tendency, especially when you're listening in your ear, that as you kind of come up on the microphone, you can hear your voice, and you're thinking, okay, that's loud enough because I can hear myself as much as I want to, or something like that. But what we want to consider is putting in enough volume that it can actually be mixed in the room loud enough. And that involves getting as close as possible and singing as loud as you healthily can. I'm not saying scream, but just don't sing timidly. Don't whisper just because you think you're singing too loud. Sing as loud as you confidently can and sing right up on the microphone. So we don't just want to be back here because it's not catching everything. It's also putting us in a position where if we move too much, we're losing volume and we're losing tone. And so what we want to do is we want to get right up on the microphone. It's okay for it to touch your lips. We wipe it, remember? I said that. And so just really get up on the microphone and give it everything that you can. It's okay if you can kind of hear a little bit of the whispering that's coming into the filter of the microphone. That's okay. We just want to give it all of the volume we can, and we don't want the distance from the microphone to limit how much volume we can give it. So yeah, think about that the next time you're on stage. Get as close to the microphone as you can, and that's going to help you project. That's going to help people hear all of the vocal power that you're putting in, and it's going to give John, or whoever's doing sound, it's going to give them all of the volume that they need to be able to mix you well so that people can hear you and understand you and feel led by you. The second main thing to focus on as a vocalist on stage is to aim for the top of the note that you're singing. This is going to sound a little bit weird, but for those of you that have been in choir, this is going to sound really familiar because every vocal warm-up that you do always involves some visual of standing up taller or stretching out your spine, or it's always some vertical focus, and there's a reason for that. That's because as people, we tend to slouch not only in our demeanor and our posture, but also with our pitch. We will almost always go flat habitually rather than sharp or beyond pitch. So when you're thinking about singing notes and you're thinking about the note, like you're thinking in your head, I want to hit this note. If you try to aim for the middle, you're almost always going to be a little bit flat. And so what you want to do when you're thinking about the notes that you're singing is you want to try to land on the top. This is not going to make you sharp, it's going to make you on pitch because it's going to help you get past that tendency to be flat. So yeah, when it comes to focusing on your pitch, aim for the top of the note. The third main thing to focus on as a vocalist is singing it straight. It can be really fun to add flourishes to melodies, especially when we're leading, but you should consider that you're a leader, not just a singer. And so when you're trying to lead the congregation to sing along, it's helpful to consider, well, what is the easiest way that I can sing so that they can follow. Good things to consider here are, well, what does the melody sound like when it's recorded? Are there any flourishes that I'm adding that are fun but make it difficult for people to understand where I'm going? So big things to focus on here are following the recorded melody, trying to be as easy to follow as you can, and limiting the number of flourishes and riffs that you're adding in simply for the sake of being an effective leader before being an entertaining singer. The fourth main thing to think about as a vocalist on stage, we're going to call this pick it and stick it. This is mainly for background vocalists thinking about the harmonies that they choose, the harmonies that they practice, and the harmonies that they end up singing on stage along with the other vocalists. In short, if the person singing melody is singing their melody and it's moving along, you want to pick a harmony that's either above or below or just in a specific spot, and you want to follow along that melody with your harmony. In general, harmonies move in the same direction and at the same pace as a melody does. And so, if you're singing a harmony along with a person who's leading, your harmony will in general follow what they're doing. So, when you're thinking about what you're singing, this can oftentimes involve, okay, I'm singing a harmony as well as another person who's singing a different harmony. So how are we singing these two harmony parts that are not overlapping with one another? You're not singing the same thing, all that kind of stuff. So good rules of thumbs here would be to try to follow the melody with the harmony that you're singing. And B, always ask for help if you're curious about whether or not what you're singing is correct. If you feel like, oh, I might be singing the same thing as somebody else, or I might be overlapping with someone, whatever, always feel like you can ask, hey, can we practice this part real quick? I want to make sure that I'm singing the right thing, because it's gonna add to an overall effect of the sound where everybody has their own lane that they're singing in, and we're building chords. But yeah. So we're going to call this one pick it and stick it. Pick your harmony and stick to it all the way through. Cool. And the last main thing for vocalists on stage is to make it your own. We've talked a lot about ways that you can do things better or that you can clean things up, but we also want you to feel like when you come on a Sunday or a Tuesday or at a student's gathering or for kids worship or for anything else, that you are coming as yourself. That you are able to bring your own tone, your own uniqueness, your own creativity. We not only want to celebrate that, but we recognize that the people of Redeemer are going to feel led by you most effectively when you are genuinely worshiping Jesus with the talents that you have. So, when you're practicing, if you find some cool riff that you're doing that you think sounds really good, or you can think of a really unique way to encourage the people of Redeemer in something that you're singing, or ways that you can lift up specific areas of the song by saying something or just by singing something a little bit uniquely, it never hurts to try it out. Bring those things to the table. We want to hear what you have to sing and what you have to say, because your uniqueness matters to your ability to lead people with your voice. And this goes for lead vocalists and background vocalists. If there's something that you want to add because you think it's going to make a chord sound different or cool, or there's some kind of like ad-lib part that you want to do in a background, like by all means bring it. Because we love the creativity, we love the uniqueness, and we love to hear your voice on stage, not someone else's. So yeah, make it your own, bring all of your ideas to the table. We love it.